everyone, and welcome to the Contingency Plan Podcast. My name is Jedi Master David, and with me, as always, is Darth Austin.
Hello, everyone.
Well, folks, very kind of slow news week, slow week in Star Wars, but we did drum up a little bit here with the High Republic. So, you ready for the next chapter in Star Wars lore?
No. I don't want to learn new names. I'm bad with names. No new characters.
So what you're saying is, what I'm hearing is, no, I don't want to hear about the golden age of the Jedi.
No, I don't like Jedi. I'm a Sith. There's probably not going to be many Sith in this era, so I'm going to be very sad. Very sad indeed.
You poor guy. I can't believe it, man. You don't want to talk about Jedi and how they were so much cooler than everyone else, and
They're just a bunch of hippies, man. That's all they were.
They're just a bunch of hippies, man. Goodness. Well, we do have a little bit more that's kind of came out about the High Republic. Some I guess a little bit more backstory, I suppose, a very limited amount of backstory around the era, what was kind of going on in the era, and what was also sort of going on with the Jedi and with the Order and everything, and the sort of expansion of the Republic. But before we kind of get into that, I want to talk to you about our new channel sponsor. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. We're not that big yet. Disney checks haven't come in. Dang, man. I've been listening to
Sure, they haven't.
Been listening to too many bigger than us podcasts lately.
Shameless plug Friday.
Well, you know what's wild? I wanted to bring this up, and I kind of wanted to see what you thought, because like so much of my previous day, with work was surrounded by obviously doing work, but also listening to podcasts, listening to audiobooks to sort of drum out the regular hum of an office building. So from your perspective, do you think you're listening to more or less podcasts / audiobooks / media than you were pre-coronavirus?
Audiobooks have gone up for me. Podcasts have kind of died off a bit. I've kind of been burnt out on them lately.
Mm-hmm.
I used to listen to 10 or 12 different podcasts at one time, but I think I just kind of did it too much. And I was more into it before all of the sponsors and, non-review reviews where they're getting paid or given the items for free to advertise for them, essentially. I do appreciate now that, because of certain laws, they have to say if they're sponsored by something, and if they don't have any sponsors at the beginning of the video, I'm more likely to listen.
Yeah.
Just because I like honest opinions in a podcast, I think that's kind of half of the point of having a podcast. So I don't like it dictated by that, but
sure.
It's been a little harder for me to find a podcast I gravitate to, but I would say down on podcasts, definitely up on audiobooks. I've went through 4 or 5 since this started.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I felt I've definitely toned down a lot. I mean, I've been working from home now for greater than 2 months. You, with your job, you're in your building doing your thing more than I am. And there have been some talks about returning, part of the workforce back to the buildings for us. But like, I find being at home, it actually it's for some reason harder for me to just want to sit here and listen to a podcast. And like you, I had several that I would listen to on a daily basis. But even with audiobooks, I mean, I listen to audiobooks when I go take a walk. I mean, I've been trying, I usually work out every day as it is, but to some extent, but I've been trying to take a lot more just like walks, go for 3, 4, 5 miles around the neighborhood and so forth. And that I can knock out, in an hour, a couple chapters or something like that. But I think, that's a heck of a lot different from 8 hours in a building where you're putting in more time. And the reason I'm kind of talking about this is because we have, the new Alphabet Squad, Shadowfall.
Yes.
And I think part of our plan was this week was we were going to talk about it this week. And then I know you're far more ahead than I am, but like, even with that, you haven't finished it. And I sure as heck haven't finished it. And I don't know. I think if I were at work in my office, I probably would be done, because there have been a lot of times where I outpace you ridiculously in those.
Usually. Yeah, because there's not a lot of situations where I can just listen to an audiobook with work. A lot of the time I have to be listening if I'm working on something, and usually get yelled at from across the room by the manager, so I have to be able to hear and all that, listen in on the radio for anybody. So I usually so my drive to work's about 20 minutes, 25 with traffic if I hit every red light. And I listen at about 1.4 times speed.
Oh, do you speed it up?
Yeah, I do, just to get ahead a little bit. I usually get, just in the ride to work and back, roughly an hour to an hour and 20 minutes a day. Other than that, anywhere I'm driving at work, I'll listen. So usually I get an hour and a half in every day on the podcast, but that's about it. So you're looking at a week to two sometimes if I don't make myself listen at home to finish a full-size book like this one. I think this is a 14-hour audiobook.
Yeah, so, a little over 14, right?
Yeah, so I've made good headway. I'm about a little over halfway done, but yeah, sometimes it is a struggle to get it done quickly. Sometimes I can read faster than I can listen. It's strange.
That's wild. That's wild, man. I mean, my normal morning commute is faster than my nightly commute because there's not as much traffic. But on a given day, I'm probably on the road in total, I don't know, hour and 20 minutes, give or take. So I'm on the road quite a bit. In normal circumstances. So I definitely have a lot more time for that kind of stuff. And it all depends on my mood too. But anyway, yeah, it's just been flipped for me, because I'm at home. I'll click on like YouTube on the television or a show or something like that, or just some music or something, or whatever. I've been trying to this is another kind of like weird tangent-y thing, but you ever find yourself just wanting to find new songs or new groups or new albums or something, and like you're just like, man, I'm just listening to the same old crap. I got to get something different going.
I feel old. I listen to 20-year-old music.
Well, that's been me lately. I've been trying to find new music. I just found the band the Wood Brothers. They're very interesting. I've been listening to a few of those things. I've actually gone back and listened to a couple of the non-mainstreamy Pink Floyd albums, like Animals. That's a really, really good album. I think it's like, I don't know, 6 tracks, but very good. I mean, you talk about like classic, Pink Floyd riffage. That's a great album to listen to. Little complainy. That was like Roger Waters' complaints about a lot of things, but anyway, still a very good album. But yeah, it's a very strange. And then even with that, I know you're kind of getting into this a little bit as well. Getting back into playing music, a lot more. I mean, that's been for several months now for me, but like, because I took forever to get your birthday present that was delivered like, a month later of your birthday or something.
It's almost like Wish in a way.
Yeah, but the description's actually accurate.
Yes, it's not a 1/10 actual size. And made of plastic.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Oh man, but yeah, I mean, I've been playing a lot more lately. At least once a day, trying to just get a little bit more creative and so forth. And obviously, we're still podcasting. I'm still doing my YouTube stuff and whatnot. And Yeah, just trying to, continue to do things to stay sane. But back to your original point about sponsorships and a lot of the sales and stuff that so many podcasts and podcast networks try and do. It's like they're trying to make money off of it, like the radio.
Yeah,
So
it's their livelihood basically. That's all they're doing.
right. So like Columbus, Ohio, 610 WTBN is an AM station, and that's really a big one for morning and afternoon news for people, traffic, weather, all that good stuff. And I would pop that on for a while when I was getting out of work because there was a particular set of guys doing a show locally where they would do a restaurant review from the area. And I always liked listening to that, but unfortunately, and honestly, this has been some time ago now, the main guy, John Corby, passed away. So they stopped doing the show. So then I just stopped listening to to that station at all. But the radio, the radio was littered with that. You had commercial breaks like TV.
Yeah.
And now podcasting is getting into trying to make money off of ad reads. And, there are some like Pat McAfee, who was a former punter for the Colts and really funny dude. But like when he does his ad reads, he kind of like pokes fun at them and he has fun with the ad reads and so forth. Of course, he's also like, he's got ads for, God, what are those sexual enhancement things? Roman wipes and Blue Chews and all that good junk, So sexual innuendo out the yin yang in a lot of those, man. But yeah, I know people get annoyed with that, but I think it's actually the same thing that YouTube went through. Because for so long you didn't make money on YouTube, and then all of a sudden, like people are placing ads, and it's like if it was just like a banner ad, which doesn't affect your video at all, it just pops up there and you click out of it. I remember a time when people were really upset about just that, let alone an ad to start the video or any sort of ad placement through the video. But now, again, the podcasting community is getting in on that because they want to make money off of it. It is new media. It is new radio. So,
well, a lot of times they aren't making money off YouTube because they either get, you have YouTube Red that blocks all the ads, and then you get demonetized by YouTube pretty easily now, depending on if you play music or have certain viewpoints. They just won't pay you. So a lot of these people rely solely on sponsorships in their videos.
Well, even the Twitch community recently was hit by a rash of, what do they call it, like DMCAs or something like that from the music industry, because you would have these streamers putting background music to their streams or playing games. And heck, some of them were even getting bit for things that were in game. Like in-game music, especially Nintendo.
Like that's the whole point of Twitch. Nintendo's terrible.
Nintendo is terrible, but they make great music. Like some of the soundtracks to some of that stuff is just amazing. But the record in the music industry is hitting that up really hard now. So I don't know, man. I mean, I think there are so many people nowadays that want to make non-traditional money. Working a 9 to 5 doesn't appeal to a lot of the Zoomers of today. Even some of the boomers.
It doesn't.
Right. And I'm not in my 20s anymore, so I guess technically I'm a boomer now. Or is that true? Zoomer?
Sure. No, I'm definitely not on the mindset of Twitch and all that. I recently worked with someone who was trying to get a Twitch stream career going, and it's a really cool concept. It'd be awesome, but at the same time, you can't really relate to those people. It's like, I don't think I could rely that much on popularity.
True.
To feed myself and my family.
Well, now
I'd have to have a consistent skill that I know is in high demand.
Right. We had talked about that though at one time, like doing like a retro sort of gaming thing where we're playing like a lot of the old Sega games we used to play, and that's a popular thing. But like again, most of the folks on there, I mean, it just all depends if you grow the community. Like one of my favorite Twitch channels is the Djibouti Dubs guys or Djibouti Studios. they've created a really cool community that just watches whatever they do. But so many of like the biggest ones, the ninja thing where he went to Mixer for big money and then Mixer got sold to Facebook and then he bounced and then now he's going back to Twitch what a Judas, man, but he's making moves. But those dudes, all they do is play like Fortnite and Call of Duty or some first person, PUBG or whatever. I wouldn't want to do that every day. Heck, there's one girl on there who I don't know if popular is the word or if it's just like more of a meme now, but I think her username's like Amaranth or something like that. She streams like darn near every day for hours. Like she's, you'll click on there and she's doing like the dance games, or she'll just be out at like a pool hanging out and stuff. So it's like a constant like semi-reality of like living with her or something. Like, oh, she's my waifu. I can see what she's doing all the time. But apparently she makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, we're not hot girls though, so we can't do that. No one wants to see.
Yeah, unfortunately. What would that be? If girls were just watching us, we'd be husbandoos.
Now, I don't know.
What would they call that?
Nothing. Now
senpais. We'd be senpais.
We'll just call ourselves the Boomer and Zoomer Senpai podcast Twitch stream. That'll be fun.
Yes.
Oh, God, what a bunch of garbage. Now I'm just kidding. I think it's great. I think it's great that people have created new media and new ways to get paid. Obviously, our little podcast here, we just do it for fun, but it's tough because everybody's trying to make money. Everybody's trying to hustle it out, and a little bit of extra scratch here and there is nice. And I'll also take this opportunity to just give a special shout out to our one and only Patreon subscriber. And that's Chase.
He's been there from the beginning.
Well, he's been there for about a month. But he's a friend of mine. You can check out. He's a podcaster too. He's got These Are the Voyages, which is a Star Trek podcast. I've been on there a couple times, and then also Reframed, which is kind of like a pop culture or psychology type of podcast. So you can check him out. But thanks, buddy. Appreciate the support. It's very nice of you. And one day we'll get back to producing more Patreon content when we can actually be in the same room at the same time to do so. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, I think we've chatted enough about our lives. It's now 18 minutes on the dot and no Star Wars.
No, we mentioned High Republic. We didn't really talk about
1809, 1810.
That's Star Wars. I just said High Republic.
You did it. Well, the biggest piece of news here is the first chapter of Charles Soule's book here, Light of the Jedi, being released. I actually hate this kind of stuff, to be honest with you. And I'm not going to
especially with how long of a wait we have.
Yes. I am not going to read the chapter. I have a synopsis, but I am not.
Oh, you didn't read it?
No, I don't do that. I refuse.
I read it.
Oh, no, that's cool. It'll be better because and I'm cool with spoilers, but for me, this sort of stuff always just kind of bugs me because it's like, well, then I just want to read the book.
And this never happened when we were growing up.
No.
You didn't get a chapter of a book release. You barely heard about a book before it released, honestly.
No, and I mean, at the end of the day, they're doing this because people are going to be angry that the books were pushed back, and they didn't have to be. I'm sorry, but they didn't have to be. They were, but they didn't have to be. We would have all been very content to buy these books.
And with how they did this chapter, I almost feel like it was intentional, knowing that it would be released well before the actual book. It's very cliffhanger chapter for the beginning of a book. You just don't see it very often.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I feel like that, probably was a setup, maybe. So,
or a modification when they knew this was going to happen, something.
True. So before we kind of get in the chapter, and this will kind of be the Darth's main thing here because I refuse. But I do want to talk a little bit about the High Republic and kind of talk a little bit more about the potential for that So there was, this was just coming from comicbooks.com. I pulled this up. This is one of the articles I sent you. And it was kind of I guess, a general synopsis of what this series is kind of going to look like. So I'm going to read through this. We'll discuss it, and then we'll start talking about the actual chapter. Let's see here. The Force is with the galaxy. It is a time of the High Republic, a peaceful union of like-minded worlds where all voices are heard and governance is achieved through consensus, not coercion or fear. It is a time of ambition, of culture, of inclusion, of great works, capitalized, by the way. Visionary Chancellor Lena So leads a republic from the elegant city world of Coruscant, located near the bright center of the galactic core. But beyond the core and its many peaceful colonies, there is the rim, inner, mid, and finally, on the borders, the outer rim. These worlds are filled with opportunity for those brave enough to travel the few well-mapped hyperspace lanes leading to them. Though there is danger as well, the Outer Rim is a haven for anyone seeking to escape the laws of the Republic and is filled with predators of every type. Oh no. Cover yourself with mud, folks. It's the only way you can get away from the Predator. Chancellor So has pledged to bring the Outer Rim worlds into the embrace. The cold, dead embrace. I mean, the regular embrace of the Republic. There's nothing crazy going on here. Through ambitious outreach programs such as the Starlight Beacon. Order and justice are maintained in the galactic frontier by the Jedi Knights, guardians of peace who have mastered the incredible abilities stemming from a mysterious energy field known as the Force. It penetrates them. The Jedis work closely with the Republic and have agreed to establish outposts in the Outer Rim to help any who might require aid. Sheriff's offices. The Jedi of the frontier can be the only resource for people with nowhere else to turn. Though the outposts operate independently and without direct assistance from the great Jedi Temple on Coruscant, they act as an effective deterrent for those who would do evil in the dark. Few can stand against the Knights of the Jedi Order, but there are always those who will try.
You will try.
So interesting sort of synopsis there. Obviously, we kind of had the thought that this was sort of going to be a little Wild Westy out here in the Outer Rim. The Jedi Knights being sort of guardians of the
galaxy.
Yeah, guardians of the galaxy. We need some hip 70s tunes right now. Play Magic Carpet Ride.
No. This is how we have the same issues as all the Twitch streamers. No music.
We'll just do like a down tune, slightly off one.
29-second version of it. Do we get a Rocket Raccoon with a lightsaber?
Yeah, why
these
not?
books, you think?
Why not, man? No, I just always think back to Star Trek First Contact when they're going to put out the first warp ship, and Zephram Cochrane, he's like, "Oh, I forgot it," and they're all like, "What did you forget?" Oh, it's like, and he whips out a tape and just like puts it into like a little tape deck in the ship, and as they're blasting off, it just starts, blasting Magic Carpet Ride. I always just think about that for some reason, and it makes me laugh. So, but yeah, I mean, interesting synopsis. Obviously, it's funny because, like, in my mind, that leaves a lot of ambiguity out there. They're not really connected with the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, but they kind of are. They work independently. What does that mean? Does that mean you could have some folks who, maybe have some interesting law methods, maybe some...
With Skitter.
They don't even know who that guy is, man.
They probably don't. That's the sad part. You should. If you listen to us, you'd know.
You should. But it's an interesting sort of thought to think of almost rogue Jedi out there just doing the best they can in a place that's maybe not as hospitable. And it brings up the drive to the West in the old days of America, where that's where the gold is, and opportunity aplenty, and then you get there and it's Tombstone.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So I think it's kind
We
of
get a Val Kilmer Jedi.
yeah.
You think
Say when.
that'd be awesome?
I'll be a Huckleberry. So what did you think about the synopsis?
Uh, it was okay. It was a bit cheesy for me. I did find it kind of interesting. They changed the timeline a bit from when we first heard the announcement of this. It was supposed to be 400 years before the Skywalker saga. Now they moved it to 200. Kind of curious as to why they did that. Um, Decent synopsis. I mean, I don't think it's a lot of new information for us, certainly. So we'll see. Uh, we don't get much more out of the chapter, unfortunately. So it's still very all up in the air what we're getting
Mm-hmm.
from this experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that. I mean, I kind of pointed this out in the beginning that I thought I even thought the cover looked super generic. You know what I mean? And I think that just based on the synopsis, obviously that's not the content of the story, but it sounds like a somewhat generic setup to a story that's been told a million times throughout different genres. So it'll be interesting to see sort of what they really do with it, like what hooks us in. Because I mean, again, on the cover of this book, this is where you have the Jedi female with the green lightsaber, blonde hair, a little tiara, or a headband tiara looking thing. Standard looking male Jedi with what looks kind of like the hilt that would be sort of inspiring Luke's Episode 6 saber. Um, the
Not,
what's that?
not many different races either. Found that
Well,
kind of weird.
yeah. I mean, well, you do have the goodness, the kind of like Twi'lek with the single Leku, and then Chewbacca, Jedi Chewbacca
Yeah, yeah,
with the crossguard lightsaber. And I'll be honest, just from the illustration, it looks like he doesn't really know how to hold it. It's just kind of like cocked to the
yeah.
side a little bit. You know what I mean? And then like a falling city, like they're not even looking at it; they're looking at something else as the city is getting ready to fall on them from the sky. It's like, don't worry about that. And they're all, they're all wearing similar robes, some sort of pattern on them. But like, I think a lot of people got really excited about it. I was like, this just looks like a kind of a generic cover. It doesn't look super interesting because like even the sabers, I mean, you do have a yellow saber, but the hilt looks kind of nondescript. Our female Jedi here, her lightsaber looks very basic.
Mhm.
I kind of think crossguard lightsabers aren't as cool as other people think they are. But we even had that in Rebels when Ezra and Kanan went to the temple, the Sith temple, and found Maul. But anyway, I don't want to like dog it too much, but again, it just sort of seemed like okay, we'll see what happens type of deal.
Yeah.
So tell us about this chapter, man. What kind of caught your eye? What's our point of contention here?
Well, if we're going full spoiler, there's really only one thing very interesting about this chapter. Um, so basically, we have our hyperspace lanes,
Mm-hmm.
and no one really thinks too much about hyperspace travel. I don't think all that much. And
No, they don't.
the, I mean, we all know about you can go insane, and obviously you could have your hyperdrive fail, and you just be kind of stuck somewhere,
Yep.
kind of just screwed. But one thing we never think of is, traffic and debris and the potential for a wreck
Mm-hmm.
during travel through hyperspace. That's basically what we have happen. We have a freighter of a sorts. Let me check the name of it real quick. So we have the Legacy Run, which is this modular freighter. It's kind of interesting. There's like, based on what they're carrying, they have 144 modular compartments they can add or remove from the ship. And they can either transport they use a example of a giant fish. They can have water tanks. They can have a giant fish. They can have water tanks. They can have little, almost apartments for transporting refugees, which is what's happening right now.
It's a
transporting
milk run.
refugees to the outer rim.
I just saw it. This was a milk run.
Yeah, but they're basically transporting all these refugees from the overpopulated streets of Coruscant to the outer rim.
The streets of rage.
The streets of rage. That's right.
Sorry, I'm not trying to butt in, but come on.
Yeah, of course. So we have Captain Hedda Cassette. Hedda Cassette.
Cassette deck. Yep, got it.
Cassette deck. Yeah, she's definitely blasting some tunes.
I like to dream. I mean, what?
And we're copyright. She's been a pilot for around 30, 40 years. She's old and gray, and it hurts. Everything hurts now. My God.
My fingers hurt. Well, next your back's going to hurt.
They even mentioned that she gets up. It's like, all those cramped cockpits. Should have stretched more.
That is one of my most quoted things from Happy Gilmore, though. My fingers hurt. Well, now your back's going to hurt because you just pulled landscaping duty. Ben Stiller.
Yeah.
Good times. Continue.
So, yeah, I mean, basically she's in hyperspace and basically wrecks her ship. She avoids this massive piece of debris, and the ship just rips itself apart from the maneuvers she pulls. And they come out of hyperspace. Basically, these shards of the ship just plummeting and hitting everything in its wake as it leaves hyperspace. And it's up to the Jedi to stop it, which I don't see.
I did like the alarm. Katang, 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 katang.
Yeah,
I've never heard an alarm like
right?
that, but okay, cool.
Yeah. I don't know. There's just not a whole lot to talk about with this chapter. I hate to say it. There's a bit of setup. You know, we have a little backstory of her and some of the kids that are on the ship, and these awkward little exchanges referring to the kids trying to access the age-restricted content of the holo tapes. It's like, I know everything that happens on this ship. Everything. And then all the kids are just looking at different corners of the room like,
delete my search history.
Grandma caught us.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. There's just not a whole lot to talk about with the chapter, unfortunately. She dead. She's super dead. Everyone's super dead.
Mm-hmm.
They all got vacuumed into space.
Well, I mean, if they were Leia, they'd be fine.
Yeah. Need more force training.
If this was written by Rian Johnson,
they'd all be in space comas right now and they'd be fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting sort of scenario, but I can't think that this is going to this cannot be the problem for the entire book, right? I mean,
I would hope not.
your antagonist is space debris. Oh no!
Moving at hyperspace speed.
Well, but I will say this though, it does bring a very practical sort of thought into mind though, because for us as we live now on the Z planet Earth, you got to think about what's floating around our planet. Satellites, remnants of satellites, trash, basically, space trash. We have that. People don't think about that enough, but it's there. And if you're talking about high speed moving shrapnel that could potentially enter and not get burned up in the atmosphere, even a small meteor, like a small meteor, can cause major destruction. I believe there was one, I don't remember when this was, but there was one that hit somewhere in Russia, And I think that did a lot of damage. I'm talking out of my rear end. I don't remember the entire story, but NASA watches large asteroids and comets and all this stuff because, you know, if one ever actually does come for Earth, there's not a lot we can do. I mean, we don't have an expert drilling crew led by Bruce Willis and, you know, soundtracked by Aerosmith that's going to save us. You know, we
The budget for that just ran out long ago.
where are the deep sea drillers? We need them to. You realize that's not going to work, right? Shut up. Send them up there.
If you throw enough money at it, it'll work.
Well, and that's kind of the thing. It sounds dumb when like the president talks about Space Force, but and we're not in any real danger of any sort of like global sort of impact because a large enough asteroid could trigger legitimately an extinction level event. If it, if it was large enough and it impacted in the right spot, even if like Armageddon, it was like several miles long type of deal. And it didn't matter where it impacted, it would destroy pretty much everything. So that is a real concern when you think about it. The odds are probably pretty astronomical. I'm no scientist, but like it does bring up a very interesting conundrum when you have a well-traveled, well-known hyperspace lane, and there is the potential of actual destruction, which is kind of why people were so upset with light speed skipping in Rise of Skywalker. Because the issue is that it's darn near impossible on a real thought level to make that work, especially when he's skipping through cities. He's not skipping like through space. Well, it is all space technically, but he's skipping through like literal cities. That's beyond dangerous. It's literally beyond dangerous to think of somebody doing that. So now you have debris, and I don't know, like I'll be honest with you. I don't really see this as much of a problem because there's no part of that ship that would technically, at least in my mind, be big enough to do anything. It would burn up in an atmosphere unless you have a really crappy atmosphere. So that's my only misgiving about it. It's like, so what's the problem? I mean, I get the problem, but maybe maybe it's like one of those like you get the clown music and it's just like ship after ship just smacking into each other like a giant car wreck in space, and it just keeps going and going until it creates a giant mass of twisted metal. That'd be funny.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be funny. It'd be funny in a dark way.
It'd be funny to read.
Coming out of coming out of hyperspace. Oh my God. Just over and over and over again. Sir, we're detecting a giant. Oh my God. The Jedi down at the planet are just looking up. It's like, there's something up there getting bigger and bigger. Maybe we should tell people to stop like using this hyperspace lane. That's not how that works.
Sure it is. No, this is what happens when there aren't Sith in the galaxy. It gets boring. When the big baddie is not the Yuuzhan Vong or the Sith, it's a boring book.
Well, the thing is I don't think that this is going to wind up being an issue. I don't think it's going to wind up being the issue or playing it up to be. I think it's going to wind up being more of a mapping issue, like a space lane / ship issue where the Jedi are going to be like, okay, listen, if you keep doing this, what they did, you're probably going to wind up being ripped apart and there could be a problem for the planet, blah, blah, blah. So let's make up an actual plan to like do something smarter. Because they even made the mention of that, like the hyperspace lanes aren't well mapped. Maybe this one is just too regularly traveled and they need to create a new one. And the Jedi are all like, yeah, sure, we'll do it, I guess. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, Jedi mapping a hyperspace lane. I mean, I guess if they have to clear out some kind of gang syndicate or something to make it safe or whatever, that'd be fine. Like a hut armada or something.
Oh my God. The armada of huts.
That's even mentioned in this chapter. Like they're describing how meticulous the captain is with her ship, keeping it clean and ready and prepped to go. It's like, even though I just carry cargo, I'm always ready for a hut armada. It's like a hut armada. That's a terrifying thought. Just a bunch of ships super sluggishly going through space because they got a bunch of heavy huts on.
Or hold on, maybe they're not giant slugs at this time. Maybe they de-evolved into giant lazy slugs. Maybe they had feet. Maybe they're little feet under there, man. Maybe they're sleek slug people that can run around and do things.
Maybe they were lizards. They evolved into
giant fat
slugs.
blobs.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Now I'm just thinking of the Borg. We are the Huts. Resistance is futile. Oh, geez. Goodness. So
what do you think is going to be the most interesting part of this new series? I mean, what's going to be the draw for us? You know,
development of the Jedi.
What do you? Do you think we'll get more force powers that we've never seen before?
I would have
to. There's a time of Renaissance. Maybe they're exploring with,
painting,
Jedi alchemy and stuff.
Oil paintings, Renaissance era.
Oil painting. Yeah.
Maybe some Art Deco designs.
New Jedi mind trick. You think this is an amazing work of art. Yeah. But it's really just a pile of poop in a bag.
Well, here's the issue, though. Okay, and this is kind of the issue that I have with the setup of this. There was already the Old Republic,
which was the Renaissance period of the Jedi.
There were people that were literally talking about, I think it was Darth Bane, but you're not understanding the timeline we're setting up. Bane's done. Revan's done. I mean, like, these stories have been told. They
cannot be a part of this.
Or unless they're completely rewriting everything. Because that's the thing.
I don't think the timeline would work if you had Bane right now, because if you had Bane in the High Republic, how could you have Plagueis right after that?
No,
200 years later.
And that's the thing. It's like there have been canon sources that have already sort of spaced this kind of stuff out. But I mean, my point is that we already had a well-established Jedi Order in the Old Republic. They were already doing things. I mean, there was much more development, and I don't really know what the development is going to be like here. I kind of think that what they wanted to do was the Old Republic, but I don't think they wanted to go back and rewrite it because it would have PO'd a bunch of people off. So they picked some midpoint in here to do like a medieval Renaissance era that honestly, I am very, very, I'm very hesitant to say it, but I think that this could have the ability to become a very divisive series for people. I think it could very much be something that people might turn against if they go the route that some of the fanboys are saying that it's going to go. Because again, like, so much of this stuff was already done, like the Jedi powers and stuff. What are they gonna? But my thing is, maybe it's more so an issue, more so a thing of, establishing all these temples and so forth. They call them outposts, but I mean they're Jedi, so I would assume that's more like the temple stuff, and maybe we'll get more into the connection of the Force and the use of it in a more practical manner, because again, these guys are more like sheriffs than they are Old Republic Jedi. So I'm interested to see it, but at the same token, I think that you have to be very careful and not to try and rewrite too much history. Because although a lot of the Old Republic stuff isn't technically canon, it is canon in people's hearts because it's never exactly been canonized. So I think you just have to be careful.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest fear is there's going to be no, I don't know. I guess really my biggest fear is that they're going to do some kind of weird tie-in to the rest of the Skywalker saga. The closer they get to that timeline, you know, when it was 400 years apart, that was one thing, but 200 years is just not that long.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, assuming we have a time span of even 50 years between the start of this book and when they finally end it, you're still getting way too close to the rest of the prequels. I'm just worried that they're going to do a tie-in and not really make something new. You know, Old Republic, there was no tie-in. It was its own entity. It could stand alone from everything else, the prequels, the sequels, everything. It could be its own thing. It didn't even need to be Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just don't see where we're going to develop here. It's too close to that timeline. We can't have, you know, this large lineage of Sith. We can't have. I think they've just ridden themselves into a hole putting it so close to the prequels. I don't like that they did that, personally. So they have to be very careful with the stories they write because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you there. You do have to be you have to be careful. That much is for sure. I'm actually kind
And really, what are we going to see with the Sith? Because, I mean, rule of two is still in act. So are we going to see things with Plagueis' master? Because that'd be around the timeline. What are we going to do? You know, what's going to be the big bad guy if it's not going to be the Sith?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is again an interesting thought. I was just looking through a timeline here. Do you know Maz Kanata? They have her official like birth. 900.
Isn't she around 700?
973 BBY.
Really?
She's over 1,000 years old, basically.
Wow. So do you? I mean, we could see her potentially. There's a few characters we might see.
It might get me some hate, but I don't necessarily know that I care enough about Maz.
Yeah.
I mean, she was fine, but I just don't think she was particularly handled very well. Especially that little blurb in The Last Jedi, which I didn't. It's like she's bouncing around, find a master code breaker. It's cool. You'll find him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I almost feel like she shouldn't have been in that movie at all. Truthfully, it's just she had potential in Force Awakens, and they just kind of threw her away. I think really the idea would be she would help train Rey. You know, that she would be more Force sensitive than when she let on and knew more about the Force and could actually teach. I think that was the whole point of her character, truthfully.
Yeah, for sure. So this is just like Wikipedia, but let me put down a couple of the points that they have just for their High Republic as of right now. High Republic era around 232 BBY. At this point, the Outer Rim contains fuel map. We know that. Okay, they wrote in about Chancellor Alina So. There's maintain legendary Jedi such as Master of our Chris, young Jedi Knight such as newly minted Keeve Trennis are stationed at the Beacon. Great disaster occurs. And so it looks like a little bit more in here. So apparently it's more starships across the galaxy are abruptly knocked out of hyperspace. Excuse me. So just to retract a little bit, it has nothing to do with planets. It looks like the debris from the Legacy run is just knocking other ships out, not planets. So all that stuff I said about burning up in a planetary atmosphere, we're fine. But it's knocking other ships out. So yeah, no, apparently this is what is the great disaster. Just one ship happened to cause a bunch of other ships to be screwed, which actually doesn't make a whole lot of, well, I guess it makes sense.
Only in that lane.
It makes
It would
sense.
only
And
be
it,
that lane.
right. It makes sense and it doesn't make sense because like, it all depends on the calculation from the computer, I guess. But the whole thing is there's always a potential for variables to happen in space that could disrupt your hyperspace lane. So I suppose it's a no, I'm not a scientist, so I can't explain intergalactic travel, warp speed, light speed, whatever. But the problem I guess that I have here is that so what happens if you're a ship bebopping around and there happens to be a large scale asteroid belt in your general path? Well, you have this one space in here that, oh, there's no asteroids. But what happens if one gets knocked into it? Are you automatically dead? Or can you somehow get around it or whatever? I think that that's kind of something. Actually, I'm starting to feel like this is a very dangerous kind of precedent to set here.
Do we really want to talk about hyperspace travel? Do we really want to bring that can of worms up?
I actually, I'm kind of starting to think this might be a little bit too finite. Like, I think that they maybe should have thought about something else.
Yeah,
I think it's going to cause a lot of people to overthink things.
This could potentially cause just as many issues as The Last Jedi with the whole dagger attack using hyperspace travel. I don't know if they really want to get into this. I don't know. Because if you're saying that hyperspace lanes don't matter, and if a ship is destroyed while in hyperspace and it could disrupt all these other ships, then we get into this topic of, well, is time relative?
Well, I mean, another thing,
hyperspace to this point of travel where it's not necessarily happening at a specific time. So could this ship hit the Millennium Falcon? What are we?
I mean, just think about the scale of space battles. You know what I mean? And debris from space battles. Like, does every ship have to somehow? I mean, how would they calculate? How would they be able to calculate around that?
Yeah,
you'd have to know it's
there. And you also factor in, these massive Star Destroyers firing laser cannons that, that can travel so far.
Now we're digging deep because that's the whole thing.
Now we're hitting planets from,
how
1,000 light years away.
How far does an ion cannon travel? Like the bolt from an ion cannon travel? If it doesn't hit its target.
Yeah. There's no gravity to stop it, so there's no drag.
Well, and the other thing too is explosions in space don't occur the way they would on like a planet with gravity and oxygen. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there is to say
space
that
fires. Ow.
Well, the thing is like there are explosions in space. That is, it's funny. It's topical because there was something that somebody posted that explosions can't happen in space because, blah, blah, but they can, and they do. I mean, stars explode. But it's far different than what we would see on our planet. It's very, very different, but it does happen. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I feel like you're just opening a can of worms that I don't think we in our manner of technological advancement, just in our knowledge now as normal people here, I don't think we know exactly. I don't know how to quantify that.
I'm not going to be the person to really dive into this and analyze it properly. I might be spouting out a bunch of garbage that's making people angry, but it just seems like we're, like you said, opening a can of worms that would have to really put into question a lot of the stories that have already been told in this universe,
Yeah.
potentially.
And if any of you guys have like better explanations, maybe we're just missing the point. Obviously feel free to hit us up on social media at TC Plan Podcast, Twitter, tcplanpodcast@gmail.com is our email address, Facebook, whatever. Let us know your thoughts on it. But yeah, it's kind of hard for me to it's kind of hard for me to quantify a lot of this stuff. I'm actually getting somewhat less excited
Interested.
about this particular book. And it's Charles Soule, which is just sort of my thing. It's like, this is the dude who gave us all these amazing comics, but I don't know about this. I really don't. I'm having trouble understanding how this would be a great catastrophe, because legitimately we see stuff blow up all the time in Star Wars. So what happens with those lanes of space? You just somehow know to fly around them. What about people
Really.
in the Outer Rim that didn't realize that the Death Star was destroyed? And I mean, what if they went through that space or whatever? First or second, it doesn't matter.
And they even mention in this chapter, when she sees the debris for the first time, the fact that it's just utterly absurd that this could even happen with calculations and everything else, radar, sonar, whatever the fuck they use. I mean, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense.
So to that point, though, do you think I'm just having a hard time believing that this is just how it's going to be, and then the Jedi are just like, quarantine the space, put some tape up.
Space quarantine.
Well, maybe it's more than that. I mean, maybe somebody's causing it.
Yeah. Maybe there's a Sith after all.
Maybe. Or another species of
another using Vong.
Some other sentient alien who's causing it. I don't know. It just seems. I don't like to over question sci-fi, but at the same token,
because you can break it down and really ruin it if you overthink it sometimes.
Yeah,
and
but you have to have a real life reference point, though.
You do. But Star Wars has never been the most intellectual when it comes to all of this. So I feel like it's their weak point, and they shouldn't be putting a light on it, And I don't know if Disney's the one to really make that better, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, we'll still be reading the book. I'm a little tempered.
Not excited anymore.
It's
not that.
There's got to be something more behind it than just one ship exploding in space and causing a bunch of debris to go everywhere. It's got to be more than that. And if we're talking about ships that are being affected across the galaxy from one ship, there's more to it than this. There has to be, right?
And then how are we going to deal with this story and the rest of the books as they come out as well? If it's the same timeline, are we even going to address it?
I
going to affect
honestly, I kind of feel like this probably is going to be centralized here.
Yeah, they've definitely made a bigger deal out of this book than every other one. So.
Well, so far, yeah, right. I don't know, man. I'm still interested, but at the same token, I am a little bit. I don't know. It just seems weird. Hey, did you know Chewbacca was born 200 BBY?
We could have Chewbacca. Baby Chewbacca.
What if that Jedi on the cover was Chewbacca's relative, or father, or mother, or aunt?
Cousin. What if it was Chewbacca's cousin? Maybe that's how Chewbacca knows Yoda. Because he's got a relative in the Jedi Order.
Maybe.
So Chewbacca is now Force sensitive. Boom.
Force sensitive. Exactly.
He is sensitive. He gets very whiny. Especially with certain space chess games.
Yeah, but I mean, again, there's just so many little blurbs in here that you could kind of get into. But I feel like this has to be a lot bigger than one ship just exploding in space. I think it's bigger than that, especially if we're affecting the galaxy as a whole. So I don't know, man. It's interesting. I guess I'm interested and less interested
At the
right
same
now.
time.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to explain. We'll have to see when it finally comes out next year.
Yeah. Well, at least we have some good books to enjoy until then.
Yeah, we've got more literature coming out. We've got comics. We've got a bunch of stuff. So, well, anything else you want to chat about this? Any other topics you got there, buddy?
No, we've kind of already talked about this. We're a bit dry right now. There's not a whole lot to talk about. We already got our news on squadrons in, so
Yep,
tis a dry spell, just like summer for gamers. It's a little boring right now for us Star Wars fans.
True that. Did you buy the Pod Racer game for your non-existent Switch?
Of course not. I don't know if I'd buy that if I had a Switch.
Oh, I'm sure you would.
I wasn't the Pod Racer fan. That was you.
Just so you could say, this is pod racing, and then delete it.
Yes, pretty much.
All for the memes, man. All for the memes.
All for the memes. Speaking of that, you ever wonder every once in a while, like, I think I could make an amazing meme. I should make it. Then you don't, of course, but you still have a good idea. I was thinking while I was reading this chapter and just the description of it, it'd be a good setup for a meme with Padme. How there's no corrosion and there's all this great stuff with the Senate and everything's awesome. And I just want to make a meme of Padme, the boyfriend one, looking back at the other woman, and it's Padme walking with the Senate, or just the Republic in general from the prequels, looking back at the High Republic.
That's not bad. That's actually pretty good. I like that. Yeah. Get your meme editor out.
Yep. Worth it. Totally worth it.
Worth it. Well, all right, folks. I think that's about it for us today. Again, you heard our social media stuff already, so reach out. Tell us what you thought about the first chapter. Any things that we're missing or just plain getting wrong, let us know. Leave your negative comments on YouTube, as always, but make sure to do something else for us. I think it would be very, very cool if folks left some more reviews on iTunes or Google Play Store. Rate it 5 stars or don't rate it at all. But yeah,
let us know how terrible we are.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be kind of, we have a few ratings on there, which is cool. But yeah, leave us some ratings on the iTunes or the Google Play or whatever. I think they all funnel in the same general area. And make sure to follow us wherever podcasts are sold or for free. Because it's free.
Yeah. We might pay you for a 5-star review.
We totally won't.
We will use all of our Patreon money to pay for 5-star review.
Yes, Chase, that is what it's going for, to inflate our egos. Thanks.
It's a great cause.
To a great cause.
Make content so much better.
Yeah.
So much better.
Well, you guys, thank you very much for listening, and I hope you guys all have a great rest of your week.
And as always, may the Force be with you.